Carpenter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Erica is going to say, I'm sitting right here.
No, no, there's a few of us in
You
town.
said that at first, I was like, no.
Right.
Is this a confrontation?
You wouldn't believe what she called you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's excited about joining, so. Yeah.
Did we lose like Brooks? I guess he did not renew.
That's correct.
Correct. He
Chris is
he
up.
selected not to re-up.
Okay.
Neither is
He doesn't know if he can be here.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just because the meeting hasn't.
I don't think Joe started.
Is anyone joining us via Zoom?
Hold on.
Sounds like the lawyer is.
Oh,
Yeah, Ryan Wagner is trying to join. I think the meeting just hasn't officially started yet, so he's kind of in limbo at the moment.
Oh, okay, got
Did he get the right?
He got the same invite and
it.
like he was on the same thing they were, so.
I know these two.
Okay. So I need to know from Joe. Joe says Ryan should be on the board. I'm not seeing it. Let me just go.
Is your last name Boatwright? Huh? Your last name Boatwright? It was my maiden name. Okay. Do you have a brother, Mike? I have an uncle. Okay. No, my husband's really good friends with that. Boatwright. PNC. Oh, really? There's a Mike Boatwright in town? In Zionsville? Yeah. Really? Well, I think he's moved now to Carmel. But oh. Yeah. At the PNC, like right here? No, downtown PNC. Oh, downtown, downtown. Oh, that's so funny.
There he is.
VW, is that in?
Morning.
Yeah.
Morning.
Morning.
I was curious to ask my husband. I don't know.
Okay. I guess we can call to order. We have quorum. We have a new member here with us, Amanda Rubeck. Do I say your last name correctly? Yeah. Okay. You do? You're like close enough. Okay, and good morning. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. All right, old business here. Objectives, goals, and budget for CDC, the ZCDC, if I may, for 2022. Wayne, would you like to share something?
Sure. No, I would just say this is the moment certainly to bring certainly your newest member, Amanda, up to speed on anything. And certainly, you know, you've been working towards through the remainder of last year to adopt the conversion process to the 501c3. There's been a couple of things that we've calibrated up and down, and certainly your attorney for Mice Miller is here as well to speak to that as an update. Certainly one of the things we were focused on as a body was to set a number of board members, and certainly you actually had 2 members step away. So that's still working through that full dais, if you will. And then that body would then be the signatory on the document to be sent in to create the 501c3. So I think that spells out a little bit of the delay, because we did have a little bit of unanticipated changes in the board membership, which is always an opportunity. But certainly Ryan is there. I mean, if you're ready to hear from Ryan with any updates, we can certainly move to him.
I think that would be great. Go ahead, Ryan.
Great. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Yeah, so I think we went through these in some detail last time, so I'll just kind of refresh where we are and what's going on, and welcome to the new members. So the concept here is to create what we're calling the Zionsville Community Corporation, which is going to be kind of the next iteration of the CDC. And instead of being a 501c4, this will be a 501c3, which will allow the entity to fundraise on its own, and donors would get a corresponding charitable deduction for their own tax purposes. And so it'll create a lot more opportunities for you to expand and grow your revenue streams. So where we are in the process, we have these documents before you today. The articles of incorporation, those are unchanged from our last discussion, and they just outline the charitable purposes, the connection to the town. And I think we talked about this last time. Part of the basis for which this entity will get its tax deduction or tax exemption is it's going to be what's called a supporting org of the town. And that means that its charitable purposes are anchored directly to the town's sort of economic development strategies. And the other piece of that is that the mayor and the RDC would have appointment powers over the board. So you'll see here that we have an initial board of 3 people, which is all we need to form this entity at this point. And those 3 are Kara, Erica, and Tammy, with Wayne as the incorporator. So once we have approval, we can file that with the state and create the nonprofit at the state level. The one piece we might want to zone in on here is in the bylaws. We have contemplated right now a board ranging from 9 to 11, with the mayor at all times having appointment authority over 2/3 of those directors, and then the balance going to the Zionsville Redevelopment Commission to appoint. And so if we need to change those numbers or decrease what that range looks like, just based on where we are and sort of transitioning, we can do that. But everything else is pretty straightforward. Folks would serve for a 1-year term. They could be reappointed by the mayor or the RDC if those entities so chose. And then the other policies here that you'll see, and again, I think we've talked through these, is conflict of interest and intermediate sanctions. And so those just ensure that we're following the 501c3 rules in terms of any potential related party transactions. So once we file these documents, the next step will be to complete the application with the IRS, the federal tax exemption application. And that is almost done. We will need the full board to be in place before we file that, because we'll need to be in compliance with the bylaws and show the IRS that the mayor and the Redevelopment Commission have made their appointments, and that's important to show their involvement in this process. So that's kind of the update and where things stand, and I'm happy to take any questions if that's helpful.
So Ryan, your comment is that until we have, as the document stands in this moment, until we have our 9 members, we really can't move forward unless we can adjust that number. Is that correct?
We can create we can file with the Secretary of State and the entity can be formed. We just won't be in a position to file for the tax exemption at the federal level until we have the full slate. So if we need to lower it to make it a range of 7 to 9 or even 7 to 11, if that makes that easier for folks to find people, we can do that. Those numbers aren't set in stone.
And we can discuss that point unless there's other things in this larger document you want to call our attention to.
No, ma'am, that's it.
And I guess, maybe Wayne, this is a question about how much interest we've gotten from other, filling out more seats of this corporation.
I believe we have about 4 to 6 individuals that have not yet been placed on a board or commission that continue to express interest. And so we're just working through those names, and actually we've sent those all to Sanjay for the RDC's consideration as they identify their next appointment. But certainly we can be in touch with in tandem, also be in touch regarding the opportunity with an appointment from the mayor as well.
I don't know what this group thinks, but I think allowing us to move from 7 to 11 might give us some latitude to make sure we don't just fill it quickly with people, but give us the time to do so. But allows us to have that larger goal of representation from more areas of the town. What do you all think about that?
Makes sense.
Mhm. Ryan, is that an edit we can move it from 7 to 11 directors?
Absolutely.
And I think the 2/3 of directors number can still make sense there. Any other discussion or thoughts on that? Okay.
Do we need to make a motion to change it?
No, this is an interesting dynamic here. So the people who are going to actually approve this are the 3 directors listed in the documents. And so I'll make this change just based on your feedback, and then we'll circulate it to the three of them, this whole package of documents for their signatures.
Okay. I just noticed on the adoption of bylaws section on page, the second part of this packet, Ben is listed as treasurer and he's no
Right.
longer.
Yeah, we'll need to change
Oh,
that.
that's a good call out. Thank you for that. Yeah, so whoever that person is, the replacement, let me know and we'll update that as well.
Which is on our agenda today. So
Perfect.
Segue to the next item.
stay tuned. Okay, any other comments on this document? It looks really great, and thanks, Ryan, for all your help.
Thank you.
Okay. We are now on to new business, election of members to roles. Here we are. We currently have a slate, myself as president, Tammy as vice president, Erica, you are secretary, and Ben was treasurer. So we've got an open position. Or if anyone would like to speak for an existing position, that is also,
Yeah, that's true.
this is the right time to say it.
Because we really haven't,
I'm happy to be treasurer.
Okay,
I think my background.
I was going to,
they both have good treasurer backgrounds.
That's true.
So,
Yeah, that's true.
yes, yeah.
okay, that sounds excellent. Thank you. So all in favor of electing the slate or of Kara Weber as president, Tammy Kelly as vice president, Erica Kell as secretary, and Amanda Rubick as treasurer, say aye.
I,
Opposed? None. Okay. Ryan, you have your answer. Before we move on to Earth and Turf, was there any other business to discuss on these items that we just had? Okay.
do we, yeah, maybe. What kind of fundraising are we talking about doing? What kinds of things are we thinking that we want to do?
Wayne, do you want to speak to that for a minute?
I think we really.
We're in the infancy of that
Right,
discussion,
so,
essentially.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
But
that is, I think this has been, in my mind, has felt like our first
Our
critical
first
path
step,
step. And then we need to very quickly move into our strategy and our thoughts on how we fundraise, how we message that, who we leverage. I think we're also, maybe I was waiting to feel like we had this rounded out to see what resources we had available within ourselves. But yeah, I think that should be kind of a primary agenda item probably for our next meeting.
Okay.
In my opinion. Did you want to add anything?
Only, I would just feather that right into the mowing and the snow removal contracts, because it's all interrelated. I mean, so just to kind of set the table, of course, is there's different people that know different information about everything. So certainly kind of first level, the Community Development Corporation owns the trail system and the pocket park within Creekside Corporate Park. And that's a leveraging opportunity that this group took a number of years ago. You have actually leased that to the Parks Department, and that's done for a number of programmatic reasons, but it's also done because of insurance. The Parks Department entities like that have a much stronger level of insurance they can reach, and so that relationship is just something that's good for a number of reasons. And we've always talked about, at least internally and certainly with leadership of the CDC, is, you know, with your ownership of the common area within Creekside, one of the lowest hanging pieces of fruit here is the creation of signage along that trail system at the pocket park. Like what you see here, thank your CDC, or whatever the new 3-letter breakout is going to be. So again, to Kara's point, as we get to that exact moment in time, certainly figuring out if that's something you all want to do. I just one of many. But certainly this reach would be 68 square miles across town with a lot of different things going on. But yeah, I'll stop there before I get into the contracts.
To that point, are there any, you know, I am personally don't have a lot of experience with fundraising. Are there people in this committee or resources available to us who might help us build that strategy? Or what are your all thoughts on that?
I've never really done much fundraising.
I have with different organizations, so that's in my wheelhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done fundraising,
Mm-hmm.
so I do fundraising a lot. So,
Okay.
but writing out a strategy is not probably something I've done before, but I would be happy to contribute and, you know,
Right.
and lend my, you know, what I know
Right.
to, you know, to the process. So, but yes, yeah.
Maybe that's something for us to think about over the next, you know, this interstitial time between our next meeting of what's the right way to, what resources do we need to build that strategy confidently to leverage what we can, what we are almost able to do to help the town. And Wayne, if you have any resources, you know, that the town has utilized or has connections to, that would also be helpful.
No, certainly both internally, externally, and also marrying this up with other groups such as the Parks Foundation,
Right.
other entities that are doing good work, that will continue to do good work. And so, you know, literally working together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a rising tide raises all boats. This isn't a sort of competition of who's going to raise more money. It's what can these bodies do for the town collectively across the footprint.
Would that be like, could we, you know, join forces then with the cultural, is it the cultural district?
You're as a separate 501c3 organization. I mean, you can choose how you wish to manage that.
Okay,
That-
I just
yeah.
wasn't, I mean, yeah, I was,
I think that's really the kind of the first point is to have some, you know, what type of fundraising that we want to do.
Right.
And that's really helps you break out your dollars. I mean, there's for 7 years now, your dollars have primarily and only come from the redevelopment commission. And so those dollars then were required to be spent within the economic development area to which they were generated in. But if you're able to raise funds and then have more latitude to leverage those funds in different parts of town, though the cultural district that you mentioned is within the EDA. And so that's a conversation again it could go back to the RDC as well for grant assistance.
What all entities or supportive government entities within Zionsville are able to raise funds in and of themselves?
I am not equipped to answer that question at this time. I simply don't know the answer to that. I mean, there's many. I mean, it's.
Right.
I mean, certainly there's a registry. There's even websites that list all the nonprofits that are in Zionsville, but what they're doing and how they're doing, I don't know that information offhand.
Sure. Okay.
And there'd be no prohibition on any of these entities fundraising. It would just be whether or not the donor gets a tax write-off, which, you know, is effectively why people give. So that's the distinction. And that's what this new entity, the value it will bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So that will be front and center of our next discussion. Maybe we can all come with some thoughts and on strategies. For that. Okay, now to our contracts.
Well, and certainly want to manage Ryan's time. He's welcome to listen in, but if there's any reason that the CDC feels that he should stay, but certainly.
Ryan, it's been great having you.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Thank
Bye.
you, Ryan.
You
Excellent. Okay, so on to contracts. This historically is back to the point of the common areas have been under the ownership of the CDC. And an important point of that conversation is that tax dollars cannot be used for maintenance. So it makes redevelopment commission gathered tax dollars, if you will. So in essence, this responsibility has always been assigned to different entities and not the RDC. And it's falling to the CDC for the items that are in front of you. So we have multiple years of experience working with different vendors for these services. You do have a little bit of variety through the park in terms of some rain gardens and some other sensitive areas that require a bit more talent than some firms can provide. And certainly while you do see in front of you two quotes for each service, these throughout the years we have found to be the most competitive firms that have the capabilities that we look for in these two different particular swim lanes and have the pricing that is the most competitive. Certainly focusing on snow removal first. Earth and Turf has had this contract for years. We've routinely gone out and looked for other vendors to provide this particular service, with the vendor saying we can't compete with that number. So that's a fairly confident response to what the town enjoys overall across the portfolio of services, as these vendors also do work across for different departments. So this is something the CDC is enjoying from a pricing standpoint. And then honestly, same with the landscaping services. It's a price point that is fairly competitive and comfortable, but more importantly, this is the size of firm that is necessary to then employs the talent to then understand the plants in the rain gardens and understand the things we could and should and will do to nurture that environment, because those rain gardens themselves are the stormwater elements for the roadway system. So that's the quick description of the two contracts that are in front of you. And these two firms have held these same positions for years. Certainly staff would encourage a continued relationship, and certainly would note, at least on the landscaping contract, that number reduces year by year depending on what lots sell. Now, yes, there is a price increase just through life itself. And then on the snow removal, that the number that we pay is based on clearing the spine. What the spine of the roadway, the pathway system is the pathway that runs from Main Street all the way to the pocket park. Certainly if the CDC would desire to clear the side pieces, that's definitely a conversation. I would note that your CAM charges that you collect currently total $17,248.48 a year. Your snow and mowing costs per year are more than that, and you have enjoyed a little bit of a sinking fund from some years of collections prior to expenses being incurred. But we'll talk more closely with the treasurer here about those expenses. But certainly you do have lots 12, 13, and 14 coming online to pay CAM charges. But we're still delicately managing the conversation as to exactly how robust we are in having snow removed. Certainly great to clear the side trails, but it's an expense we've tried to avoid. And I would note that the pathways along the roadway are taken care of by the town.
This all, I guess, is any questions on these contracts, or?
Does any of this include trash? Like if they're mowing and they see some like trash or debris in a particular place on the path, are they instructed to kind of pick that up? And
Right. So the Brightview's contract, since, as you can see, their service starts March through November, October, somewhere in there. So that they're on site for those days or those months. And so they would be providing that service, including actually emptying the trash cans during those moments. As staff, we routinely walk the trail system, just looking for maintenance issues and other opportunities to help out. Uniquely tossing sticks back into the woods many times, because that's what we have the most of in terms of trash, debris. In the odd months that are not covered by the Brightview contract, that's actually the Parks Department heads in there, empties the trash cans, and that's just a relationship that we've enjoyed simply as part of that lease.
A point of clarification. Unless this tabulation is cut off, we may have a page that's cut off. The Brightview total is 22,340.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I missed one.
Yeah, it could be cut
Additional
off.
items.
Okay.
On the,
I only have one page of the Brightview in here. It seems like where they're
Yeah, I think in our In our printed packet today, we have one page, but Tammy,
I printed off what you had emailed me from Brightview and it looks like, so I think I must have cut off a page, but the total under the original budget proposal shows 20,781, but then there's additional items and that's what's kind of cut off. So there may be like $2,000 in there. That's.
do you have that?
I think the
Hi.
amended
I
items
have
were
that.
from previous
Jamie, do you need that
years.
sheet?
That was the supplemental
Oh,
information that you
does it-
received. This
does it
document
fit
that's
the-
in the packet, I
does it
believe,
add
is just an
anything on?
amendment to
Oh,
the
is it?
original contract.
Okay.
Because they've
Yeah,
continued to have
just-
the contract, this is just the amendment and it's just condensed down to that one page.
And it's
Should
just
we-
extending the
Yes.
contract, the current contract
Mhm.
language. Okay.
And it's just, I think it just amends the dates and then it amends the price.
Oh, that was
Okay.
last year's.
All right.
And the-
That's
The
good.
price
Yeah.
amendment, is it itemized in any way, or is that?
So what we sent originally in the packet, it doesn't really go line by line. It's more so just kind of a,
Yeah, it's just a dollar amount. So
Just a
are,
dollar
are
amount.
they saying that the billing then would be the same? Because the total service fee in the original contract was 20,781, and this is 22,340. So it'd be nice to see what their new itemized, pricing is.
I can assume it's going to be just taking that number and dividing it by 10, and that's the payment that would be made over the period, but we can certainly ask them to provide that. This is, the limit, this is the level of data they provided. But certainly if this overall cap is comfortable for the CDC, we'd certainly, we can certainly move forward and ask for that information. Certainly would look for authorization if you're so inclined.
I think that would make sense to me. I mean, it seems within range of a renewal.
Yeah, and the
Incremental
Earth and
increase.
Turf service proposal that we got really late yesterday afternoon. Yeah, their total is pretty close, but it's slightly over. It was 23,308.
Based upon just that, I think the Brightview, based upon being judicious with our funding would make sense. And then I guess, does anyone feel differently on that?
Wayne, did you ever get any feedback in terms of how it looked at Creekside or any complaints?
The biggest concern that we get from, that I've heard is about the mulch. And honestly, that's something that's degraded since it was installed, and we have pricing on the mulch and it's $10,000, and then the installation is a separate number. And that's a number that's been beyond what we've been able to accomplish through the budgeting. And certainly part of that mulch conversation is related to the rain gardens. And yes, it would be very simple just to collect what we've ground up from tree work and place it. But then we've got literally some organic issues with results from that. But yeah, we're working on different ideas beyond just paying full retail.
How are the rain gardens performing?
It's been, the deer do like the succulents, so that's been sort of an interesting dilemma. We did end up reducing some of the plantings pretty significantly just to try to restart some of the rain gardens. It's with 2 irrigation breaks we experience 1 irrigation break a year, which is a charge that we also have to plan for. So we're always striving for better. But Brightview is the company that we've found that has the strongest talent on that topic.
Yeah. Well, I would recommend we move forward with Brightview with the skill set they have and the better price.
Okay.
And then could we also request to get them to send us an updated itemized, just for our own records?
Certainly.
Okay,
Okay, we'll work for that.
thank you.
Yeah, our goal would be to get this answered and resolved by the end of the month, just because we just know if too much longer, we're looking at a price increase and like everything else around in this world at this time.
Okay, we'll loop these together, maybe in a recommendation within the snow removal. So we have snow removal with Earth and Turf. that correct? As a separate contract?
Correct. That would be our recommendation.
Okay. And that all seems acceptable in my opinion.
Mhm.
Have we had any issues with our service?
Not in the least. In fact, they're within 24 to 36 hours, they had taken care of the snow from the last time. It's what it is. It's just working through the town's responsibility of the pathway system and the parking lot
Mhm.
than this other separate contract. And so I think our consumer, our customer, our patron might not they might have one level of service, but then not have something else just because the timing. So we'll just continue to try to improve on that execution.
Mhm. Okay, in light of that, I would make a movement to either adopt or recommend to adopt
I would just say to execute.
to execute the contracts with Brightview for $22,340 and with Earth and Turf for $1,390. Earth and Turf for snow removal, Brightview for the remainder of the maintenance for the property. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Any other business? Do you have any thoughts on timeline when we may or may not have any new faces? Or is that all just in motion?
Well, I would say it's on the RDC's agenda that
Okay.
we're working on
Okay.
to at least have that identified, and I will circle back with the administration
Okay.
as to where that's at. I mean, this is an ongoing conversation, but we definitely are anxious to see who else can populate these seats,
Yeah,
and at the same time,
perfect.
community volunteers are interested in helping. So it's good conversation on both sides.
So when we get two more, we can move forward with the state level exemption.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Anything else?
What's the situation with RLL? Are they open and is the town going to be doing anything like to celebrate them being in Creekside, kind of a, we're glad you're here kind of thing?
So they started to install glass about 10 days ago, at least where it was pretty apparent. And so that's going to allow them to then enclose the space, heat, cool it, and move a little bit faster. I would assume that's probably what they're thinking. I'm looking for an update as to their schedule. I'll have that here middle of the month with the team. But yes, there will be opportunities to leverage their presence, and we'll look to celebrate that, and certainly match that up with Hy-Vee. Hy-Vee is, of course, the grocer that's been announced out at the Pot Farm area, so in between the Get Go and the Lowe's.
Mhm.
But very importantly, Hy-Vee is a sponsor of Ray Hall, Megan Letterman Racing, so that's a great
Fantastic.
relationship. And so we do want to celebrate that as well. So, and I would imagine that'd be a pretty cool grand opening too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, good question, Erica.
Yeah, do we have any other tenants that we're that you're able to talk about?
Certainly, we have quite a bit going on in Creekside, and certainly the redevelopment commission will be working through 4 different bond issuances / creation of economic development areas this year. At least that's what's on the schedule. It's put in their annual report last year that was distributed. So with that's typically you'll see a town handle 1 of those a year. And so by handling 4 of those, that just paints the picture of the level of intensity of activities that we're striving for. And certainly that will mimic back to the CDC in terms of projects and asks and things like that. In terms of Creekside itself, we have projects that we're in discussions on lots 3, 4, 5, and 9 has been back and forth. 2 was in and cold, and we have another project that could look at 7 or 8. And then of course we have lot 1 that is a signed term sheet with Charitable Allies. And so we're working on development agreement with them currently. So fairly intensive at this moment. Certainly it's great to have this level of interest, and certainly our third version of our marketing sign will go up next month in Creekside. Our presence on LoopNet will get a conversion, hopefully with approval of the RDC at the end of this month. So there's a number of things that we're doing for market presence as on top of the direct communication and emailing that we do with cold prospects, as well as folks that are moving through the system. So fairly intensive. Plus, there's the Zionsville Gateway area on top of that, and we really look for that energy to really capitalize on the Creekside and vice versa. And then another piece of that conversation is the Dow Ground. The Dow Ground received its trigger event on January 24th. So that acreage is moving into the marketplace. It's pretty aggressively moving into the marketplace. And so we're busily having conversations on that 25 acres and what's called the ROFO, which lies in between Lids, the former Lids, now Group 1001, and Dahlia Drive. And so that's a separate 8.3 acres that has a separate price point that was established in several transactional documents. And that conversation should have pretty strong occurrence here over the next week because of timing based upon the ROFO documents, request for a right of first offer. So just a few things going on.
Good. So we should have some more CAM charges headed our way. If that helps somebody.
Yes, I mean, and it's nice. I mean, the Ray Hall transaction allowed the creation of a document that set more clearly what the CAM charges could be. Every transaction thus far has been, this is what it is at this moment. And so everybody kind of has a different number that they work under. And so now moving forward, there'll be a very clean way to calculate that. But ultimately for the CDC, that will give you a good baseline projection of cash in and cash out. And hopefully we'll one day be done cutting down ash trees.
Can help. Okay. No other new business discussions? Okay. We'll adjourn. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.